Hi Tea Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out Chaeyoung's Shoot parentheses Firecracker. I really don't know what I'm about to walk into. Like, the only thing that I really have to go on is Avocado, which was such a distinct sound, such a distinct aesthetic, and I feel like it fits so in line with Chaeyoung as like a person and an artist and the different like things that we've seen from her over the years, right? But at the same time, it seems like she's playing around, right? Like this whole introduction of this like fantasy world, this other world, Wonderland, where she's separating herself out from this is who she is as an artist as like a member of Twice, and then who she can be in like this alternate place, right? So it makes me really interested to see what we're going to get sonically from her, right? So I'm very excited to get to the song and music video and everything. I'm too excited. I need to calm down, center myself before we get into this. All right, Shoot lyrics starting off. Honestly, like, I think it's so fun that my brain is, I have no idea what this is going to be sonically, other than what we got with Avocado, which was like a classic rock indie vibe. Maybe we're going that route. I don't know. Ooh, okay. That's an interesting synth. Okay, first off, the synths. I'm here for it. I was already like, we were getting a bit of an older music vibe with like 70s, 80s mixing together. I really like that, at least from what I've been able to tell from In My Room and then Avocado so far, is that she seems to really like to play with like electronic sounds or like on the production end of things. And I think that's really fun, especially mixing it with some of the instrumentation. I know that she's like doing some collabs with, there's a Japanese band that she was collabing with and stuff like that. So you have the bass line coming through, which very much feels like an actual bass being played. And then having these like fun synths over top of it that are like this kind of like plingy kind of sound, like light sounds, which makes me very much think like Firecracker, like fireworks, right? Like those little like points of light up in the sky, right? So I think that's really fun to have that like mixture of those two things, and almost like this like filter on those synths too, because it's not the kind of like cleaner or like clearer sound that you would get with something like EDM or and some of the more like modern pop songs that we've heard with like Twice and everything. So I think that's also really fun. Like, it has this almost a little bit of like an 8-bit feel to it. And I just think that's so much fun. And it's so like whimsical. And I love that, again, in contrast to like Avocado, we're getting a little bit more of like closure in her voice. It's still a very soft sound, which is very like in line with her voice naturally, but it's a little bit more oomph behind it, which I think also fits with the shift in the production that's happening here. But I like this. We have the fireflies and butterflies, again, like these kind of like pops of color, even talking about like void without the fire is really interesting. Even the like promise to me, we had the like deceive me, believe me lines in Avocado as well. So I think it's just interesting narratively that we're having some of that pulled forward. Ooh, okay, no, I'm pulled in. I'm already bopping. I love that distorted guitar. Ooh, that's a fun vocal melody. Ooh, I love, okay, One, I really love that she's putting in all these like layered vocals, that we're getting high notes like buried in the back of that, but there's so many vocal layers, and we had that again with Avocado, so that seems to be something that she's incorporating into the style, I guess, from like the 2 songs that I have from this album. So chances are she can also surprise me somewhere along the way. But I love that she has all of those layered up there. I think it just blends beautifully with her like softer tone too, is which is, it softens all the edges out for it. But I also find it really interesting that we have that like, cut off in the middle of the line, right? Shoot from the, and there's like a definite like pause deliberately put there. It's not like just continuing on with the line. And I think that's really an interesting choice to break up some of that line, but then also this idea of shoot, right? Which is, could be taken in like more of a violent kind of way, but I'm thinking shoot from my heart like a Cupid's arrow kind of thing, or something like that. So it's this idea of maybe being struck by someone or something. I don't have any like specific vibe one way or the other, especially given some of the story things that I feel like we're getting into with this release. But I do think it's interesting to talk about that, like, feel the void without the fire. Again, this idea of a void usually is not a good thing. It's like this dark place with nothing in it, and it's ignited. We have this like firecracker, right? Which might be like going into some of the translations, right? Of like Korean. I don't know how much that is because I do not know enough Korean to be able to go into the nuances of that exactly. Like a firecracker, a firework, even like the fireflies, right? This like point of light in these dark places, or the darkness is how you can see the beauty of that spark of light. So I think it's interesting in terms of like heart, comparing that to heart, or like an internal experience, to be like, I'm going to take maybe this thing that exists within me and create these like points of light or vibrancy in those times or those places where it feels empty or dark, maybe. I don't know. Throw in ideas and see what sticks. I love the instrumentation. I love the dampening of that, the production here. Oof. These beautiful little vocal runs. Hey, room reference. Ooh, I love all these little vocal runs that she's putting in. Like, they're really fast runs. And I think that's so interesting because it's not something like a vibrato. It's like a specific vocal run that she's like putting into it, but they're really quick, that I think it fits well as this little flourish, because it's not doing anything like crazy, like a whole like belting note or like all of these like vocal run like agility things, but there's a ton of agility at being able to hit all of that really quickly, and it just adds these little flourishes to these little moments. And I think that it adds some interest to the vocal melodies, and again, it kind of adds to the like airy, fluttery feeling of the vocal delivery for a bunch of it, right? Again, she has a bit of a softer voice anyway. I think that kind of leaning in to that kind of soft, dreamy sound that she can get naturally with her singing voice is a really good way of going about that, especially again, since it seems like we're little fantasy leaning into some of that otherworldliness. But I like but my room is perfect. I love that, because I was saying like In My Room was also like a song that we got from her, and I like having a little bit of that kind of pulled into this as well. And the Love Is Within, Why Are We Still Searching? I think that's going into what I was talking about before. I'm like, I don't know if this is exactly a like talking about the heart or love or whatever in relation to a specific person. It seems more like, again, like when you're in kind of those moments of darkness within yourself, or you're going through an experience that is like this internal struggle, that this seems about digging into finding that thing within you that like sparks joy and vibrancy in your life, and pulling that out, using that as a way to find that spark of happiness. And even talking about, I've traveled the world, my room is perfect, talking about I can go around and I can see all these wonderful things and all of these other experiences and things that other people will look at and say, oh, that's like something a successful person would do, or I would love to do all those like things that you've been able to go around the world and do. But the real kind of test of, do you know what makes you happy, is can you be like in your room and find that spark of joy still? It's not when like exciting things are happening or these big like life events are happening. It's like those tiny moments of little joys that you find just by existing with yourself, right? It can also be closing yourself off in some ways too. You can also look at it from that side, but it feels like someone kind of finding those quiet moments of joy by themselves, especially again given some of the imagery that we got in the avocado video, where it's like going into your own little world of make-believe and pretend and like fantasy, right? The album title implies. But I love the production. I love that there's these moments of muting down or kind of like putting post on some of the instrumentation, and then there are moments where like it's taken off and you can hear it a little bit clear with some of the instrumentation, and then it's such an interesting like flow of putting like post on certain instruments at some points and then letting it be like a bit clearer and then taking things out again. It bops too. I'm just like sitting here having a great time, which I feel like is part of the message of the song. Ooh. A little wind up. Ooh, that's both the harmonies. Ooh. Ooh, I love that at the end there it was just like take out everything except the drum and then have all the layered vocals. That's so fun too, like a way of kind of deconstructing some parts of the song. Like I was saying, there are certain points where there's like playing around with the post on the production side of things, right? Like sometimes the bass has like some distortion on it and sometimes it doesn't, and how much distortion is on like the guitars switches up, and which synths we're having and how much they're muted down and how much they're let open a bit more, right? There's so much of that kind of playing around with the sound, and I think that is really fun. And then having a bit of a deconstruction of those elements, and even like having just like the drum there with the vocals. Drums are kind of like the heartbeat of a song, so I think that having that percussion coming through with the like shoot from my heart, I think is also like really in line with that. Really fun song, very atmospheric again too, which I think is definitely feels a little bit like what she's going for, is like the mood of her solo song seems to be like very forward in the production choices and the vocal delivery and everything. That seems to be part of what she constructs when she's doing solo stuff. I say as if I know anything about that other than the 3 songs I've heard at this point. But given that, albeit small sample size, that seems to be how she's constructing everything. Little fun vocal things, so many different like layers in the back of it that I feel like just fill everything out and soften everything. There are no like hard edges to this song, and I think that also adds into this idea of finding those moments of joy or escaping from the world that's judging, right? Was one of the lines. Yeah, let's let go of the world so judging. So like escaping from all of that and being in your own like comfort cocoon, or like your own kind of, I don't know, daydream in some ways too. And I think that having a song that just feels really soft fits with that. It just makes me think of being in that like comfortable place where you're just allowed to have a break from the world or whatever and escape into those like fantasies and daydreams and everything. Really excited to see what this like music video is going to be like, the visuals that we're going to get, because it seems like there's a really distinct like style and story that we're going for. I literally just made an excited squeak noise loading up this music video. I need to calm down. I'm an adult. Look how beautiful she is. She's done nothing. Anyway, we ended off the avocado video of going up to the like castle in the sky though. So I wonder if that's something that we're going to continue with. And we're like asleep. So again, like dreams, pillow fort. Like I said, like soft. I don't know. Whoa. That's interesting. Ooh, okay. Okay, I know I'm like right away, but also look at this like hallway with like paintings and drunks. I think, okay, I'm an art nerd, I need to calm down. I think it's really interesting to have the like turning, right? And she's like upside down. I already think that's interesting because we have the inversion, right, of her. She was also like moving clockwise. So I think that's interesting. Like strike 12 is definitely something from like fairy tales and stuff, or like folklore and everything. And I was even thinking like her under all of these like blankets and stuff makes me think of like the Princess and the Pea, right? Like laying on all of the, I know that's not exactly what we're going for, but again, like that's like a fairy tale. So leaning into some of those fantasy elements, even just like the outfit. Oh my gosh, I need to calm down. I'm too excited. Even like the shoes makes me think like a little bit like the Wicked Witch of the West or the Wicked Witch of the East. Wizard of Oz. Looks violent. Cute. Ooh. Hello? She's so cute. Look at her. Anyway, I'm not fangirling. It's fine. But again, like I love slightly off imagery of having these other like stones or like plants that don't exactly fit in to like our normal wildlife. It feels like a set, but like it's outside, right? So it's still in that kind of almost like uncanny area, right? Where it feels like it could be like real plants, but then there's other elements mixed in. It also feels like it's a sound stage, right? And having this like grainy filter on everything. And I love how she's just like waking up in like this other world. Is this like maybe the castle that we saw? I don't know. But I love just all the kind of like a whimsical vibes to it. It's just as someone who like loves stories of like fantasy and other worlds and things like that, it's just, I'm just like giddy. Even like drawing the heart over the thorns is interesting. Cute. I like that that's like on the beat. Oh! Cute. It's like, what are you trying to accomplish? She's so cute. Okay, several thoughts on that one. Okay, before we get further, I love the shoot, just like shooting at the like different like fruit or whatever, and then having the rabbits, which I was also thinking we have like black and white rabbits, which again I already talked about in avocado, but how I thought it was interesting to have the black and white. She was all black and white before getting into like color near the end. So I think it's interesting that we have the black and white, also like the white rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. Makes me think of that, especially since it seems like we're falling down the rabbit hole again and she's like very excited, so maybe we're like revisiting again. But I was also thinking with, she had the little like house, right? If I can maybe find it, the little, yeah, this, and she like puts the gem in and then it's like the doors that she walked out of, so she like shrinks to fit in. I was also thinking of that because we had the lyric in Avocado that was like bite me, and I was thinking later because I was re-listening to it because I have problems. For anyone who's watching this on YouTube later in the future, I listened to Avocado yesterday, so the fact that I'm going back and listening to it over and over again is, it's fine, right? But in Alice in Wonderland, we have the like drink me and then the eat me, like it changes her size, right? Like she grows and shrinks. So I was thinking of that because again, I have a problem. I can't just leave things when they get to my head. But I think it's fun to have the like house here that she's like shrinking to fit back into. And then it looks like we're going back into this other world. But I was also thinking we have the different like plushie or something. It might be the rabbits. So they're like real, but they're not real. Again, like that make-believe. We had that with Avocado with the like kind of paper mache set. It's clearly a make-believe world, and this is like on the edge of that. It's a little less clear, like what is reality and what is make-believe. And I probably had other thoughts. I'm thinking too much about it now. Oh, and the rock. She has like the rock that she's like pulling. I think that's interesting too, of like perhaps again escaping from something that is like weighing her down. Maybe that's the symbolism. I don't know. I have too many thoughts. She's also adorable. Just the drawing on her face again. Is that the right spoon? Cute. Oh, the little stop motion creatures again. I I think it's so fun that we have the stop motion. I was thinking we had the different frame rates in earlier scenes too, which is like fitting into that stop motion kind of feeling, or even like older like artsy film where there's just like a lower frame rate in like really early films. I'm thinking like French films specifically. So I think that's fun to mix that in with some of the kind of like live action parts of it. And even like the baking, like making like potions and stuff like too. There's this kind of like childish whimsy to a bunch of the imagery in this, which I think is really fun, especially if we're talking about escaping into your world of make-believe or daydreaming. Like, when was the last time you just played pretend, right? It was probably like when you were a kid where you could escape into these other completely other worlds, and it was just like in your bedroom or in your backyard or at the park or something, right? Like, you could just completely fall into these make-believe worlds and have that kind of childish wonder that would help you do whatever you wanted. And I think that's so fun too. So it's like making these like potions. It's like we have like purple strawberries, it looks like, instead of the conventional red, because who told you it had to be like a certain color? Like, I'm thinking of like we have our drawing and stuff and you're like coloring pictures and you would just like, use whatever colors you wanted because you're like, reality. I'm not here to make reality. I'm here to make a masterpiece. Ooh, invited to a little fantasy. That's fun. The drawing's like leaking out. Also, like, she's a crown. Oh, hello? Are they like plushies again? Whoa. But I was thinking, like, with the here, it's almost like we have like plushies come to life, right? You're playing with your toys and they have like distinct like personalities and characters and names and everything. So I feel like it's leaning into that a little bit of her like being in this world, having to setting up like a tea party with your toys, but also the Mad Hatter's tea party as well. So we're like in a darker setting, so it feels a little bit like we're leaning into some of that. Two, really, again, interesting visual. It feels very much like this. How do we personify like a childish game of imagination, but like with this like off-kilter thing? I was also thinking, again, because I keep thinking about this comeback because I can't just let things go. I remember having conversations with someone where they said that one of her influences was also Tim Burton, and I'm like, this very much feels like we're leaning into some of that kind of stylistic feeling of something that is both familiar and unfamiliar, right? Like, I feel like Tim Burton's style very much wavers on that edge of like uncanny, right? It's a bit gothic inspired, but it's about taking something that is very familiar and putting in these elements that make you go, hang on a second. So I think that's also what she's going for. I'm thinking of like Edward Scissorhands and like Big Fish and stuff like that, that it has that vibe to me, which is also just kind of is a really fun way of, again, expressing that kind of childish imagination, make believe, daydream, but obviously she's a grown up. So there's a little bit of that different edge to it, right? And leaning into some of her unique style as like an artist as well. This is trippy. We're gonna get choreo? Fun. Ooh, that's fun. I like the salute. Ooh, is it the Firefly? Wait, I love that we got choreo. I didn't know if we were, honestly. I was like, we could go the artsy route, or it would be like performances. Maybe we'd have choreo. But I like the kind of like framing of the face. And I love that we have a bunch of these like kind of hand details that are like framing, because it's a bit like artwork or like a picture frame or something. And even just like the shoot where she's like pointing up, but it's also like salute as well. So I like that we're having all of that imagery like mixed into it. I also love that her dancers are in the outfits that kind of make them blend in to the background, and then she's like more distinct in like the different outfit that's contrasting with all of that, with the very like basic like geometric pattern things, again leaning into some of the stuff that we got with Avocado, where I was talking about how we have like primary colors and leaning into those like geometric designs of like checkers and diamonds, polka dots, stripes, right? Kind of these bold patterns, and a little bit of leaning into some of that like monochrome style, I think is also like really fun, because if you have all these whimsical elements in terms of the actual like design of things, right? Like the silhouettes that we're getting, having those more simplified like color palettes, I think fits into that aesthetic better better because you don't want to clutter it with a bunch of different like intricate patterns and a bunch of different colors and things, especially for something where you're going to have kind of this grainy filter on it. I think that having those pops of color translate better than having something that's a little bit more subdued. And I think it also fits into things like older films. I'm also thinking a little bit of Willy Wonka, right? Like the Chocolate Factory, just like these huge like pops of color with Gene Wilder, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, right? Like which is again like escaping into a make-believe world, but like these vibrant pops of color in those older films because they translated better to like the older type of film. So I think that it fits really well into that as well. I love all the kind of pops on those drums. Fun transitions too from this like white background to this darker setting. Is that the Firecracker? That's fun, making the X around her. That's fun, like fireworks reflected in her eyes, but again, like setting off the firework. Again, this point of light in those darker points, right? Even like the firefly that we had, but it was like in her eye, and then having that as well with the like fireworks going off reflected in her eyes. So much fun. Again, like aesthetically, I love it. I really love the production on this. I think it's so fun. And it has such, again, like an interesting lean to it, such a distinct kind of character, which I personally really love. I've also said before that I will always appreciate somebody doing something interesting, regardless of like how I personally feel about it, whether or not it's like in my personal style. Again, this one happens to be because I love a good like synthy 70s, 80s vibe to it. So I'm here for it. But regardless of how I might personally feel about something, doing something very distinct and interesting in how you're doing anything in music always grabs my attention, always makes me excited to pull apart the different sides of it. Because yeah, go and do something that is like interesting and off kilter and whatever, especially if it's for a solo thing like this, right? Like the fact that she's had this whole album to do with her own thing and have it be distinct and outside of the stuff that she's doing with Twice, where she doesn't have to try and make it blend with other people's styles or kind of the progression of them as a group. Go into a completely different direction and do something that's really different from what other people are doing and lean in to the more like whimsical side of her like interests and aesthetic and everything. I really like getting the introduction of these kind of like people in this make-believe world of these kind of creatures or like plushies or whatever, right? And adding into some of those layers. I'm just sitting here smiling because I'm just like, I bet I could pull apart so many other things, but I'm probably gonna have to sit with it for a while, and I probably will. I just loved it. Like, I love the production on it. I think that her voice just is so like dreamy and soft, and having all of the layered vocals on it, I think that just adds to that atmosphere so well. And putting in those little like quick vocal runs is just these little flourishes that I think really lean into that. And the music video, again, like such a distinct style, especially for something where basically she's like the only like real character in it, right? Because we have the people with the masks that were like these like plushies come to life, or like the dancers that are meant to blend into the background, right? She's pulling like the whole thing in terms of a narrative, which again, solo, so she's gonna be like a focal point, but it's a lot to have a very distinct style for. And even when there are moments in this music video where there wasn't any plot happening, right, it was about building up that atmosphere and introducing us to that world. Even like with Avocado, it was very much like, how do we pull people into what this world is and everything that's going on. So I just love that there's something very atmospheric in the way that she's putting together her solo stuff, and is very much about like, what is the mood, what is the vibe that this like song has. And are there like repetitive bits in this song? Yeah, like there's definitely repetition going on, but I feel like it's with the intent of building a very specific mood. Like it feels more like a mood piece as opposed to something that is very strictly trying to tell a specific like narrative or something. It's trying to like make us have a feeling as opposed to going to the complexities of that. And that's why I compare it to like older like French films and stuff, where that very much was about like, how do we tell like an interesting kind of artsy story as opposed to the complex narratives that we got later on when like film became more of a thing. We got like feature length films and things where, you know, back when it was just like these short kind of smaller whimsical productions and things like that. I'm so intrigued. I'm so pulled in. And I'm like greedily, I want there to be more music videos. I don't know if there will. I don't know when this is going up on YouTube. I'm so sorry. Join Patreon if you want to get early access to things. But at the moment that I'm filming this, the album dropped yesterday. And so I don't know if we're getting any other things visually in terms of like videos or whatever, but I very selfishly would love for there to be more. I haven't even heard the other songs, and I want to see what other kind of visual things she'll put together, even if it's not, again, like a strict like plot line. I think that the style of it is so much fun and so distinct and has such a like old Hollywood feeling, also this like off-kilter feeling, that I'm intrigued by it so much. But I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe to me next time I post a Chaeyoung or Twice reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.